According to Wikipedia, typology in Christian theology and in biblical exegesis is a doctrine or theory concerning the relationship of the Old Testament to the New Testament. Typology is very useful for grasping truths about the Catholic faith because it is both at the same time simple and profound. Through typology, people, places, and events from the Old Testament are seen as a foreshadowing or a prefigurement of people, places, and events in the New Testament. Typology uses storytelling to deepen our understanding about the Catholic faith. And this is much like the approach that our Lord took to explaining truth, as he spoke in parables and in stories so that everyone could understand. Please listen prayerfully and open your hearts to see the typological prefigurements that lie waiting for us in the Old Testament. Of all the typological prefigurements in sacred scripture, one of the most important and most beautiful is that of the Ark of the Covenant. For Israelites in the Old Testament, there was nothing more holy and more powerful than the Ark of the Covenant except God himself. The Ark of the Covenant contained the very presence of God. It had jaw-dropping power over the enemies of Israel and was treated with great respect. In honoring and respecting the Ark of the Covenant, they were honoring and respecting God himself. For Catholics in the New Testament, there is nothing more holy and more powerful against the enemies of God than the Holy Virgin Mary, except God himself in the Eucharist. Our Lady contained the presence of God, and she has jaw-dropping power over our enemies, and she should be treated with the utmost respect. In honoring and loving Our Lady, we are honoring and loving Jesus Christ himself. Now, let's look at some of the amazing typological similarities between the Ark of the Covenant and our Virgin Mother Mary. When God was giving directions about the details of the ark, he said to the Israelites, "And they shall lay a covering of porpoise skin on it, and shall spread over it a cloth of pure blue." Although it isn't mentioned in the New Testament, Our Lady is widely and almost universally depicted as wearing a blue veil. Again, when God was giving instructions to the Israelites about the ark, he said, "Have them make an ark of acacia wood, 2.5 cubits long, 1.5 cubits wide, and 1.5 cubits high." Now there are varied and numerous statements from various people and sources that attest to the extreme durability of acacia wood. Here is one. This wood is resistant to decay because the tree deposits in the heartwood many waste substances which are preservatives and render the wood unpalatable to insects, making the wood dense and difficult to be penetrated by water and other decay agents. Thus, the substance that the Ark of the Covenant was made of is practically incorruptible. Now, it's a dogma of the Catholic faith that Our Lady was assumed into heaven. This is because she was without sin, neither original sin or personal sin. Our Lady is also incorruptible. The cloud covered the tabernacle of the testimony, and the glory of the Lord filled it. Neither could Moses go into the tabernacle of the covenant, the cloud covering all things, and the majesty of the Lord shining, for the Lord had covered all. And the angel answering said to her, "The Holy Ghost shall come upon thee, and the power of the Most High shall overshadow thee. And therefore also the Holy which shall be born of thee shall be called the Son of God. Just as the Ark of the Covenant was covered with the cloud of God's presence, so too was Our Lady overshadowed by the Most High. And David was afraid of the Lord that day, saying, "How shall the ark of the Lord come to me?" And the ark of the Lord abode in the house of Obededom the Gethite for 3 months. And the Lord blessed Obededom and all his household. And David danced with all his might before the Lord. And whence is this to me, that the mother of my Lord should come to me? And Mary abode with her about 3 months, and returned to her house. For behold, as soon as the voice of thy salutation sounded in my ears, the infant in my womb leaped for joy. Now when Moses went into the tent of meeting to speak with him, he heard the voice speaking to him from above the mercy seat that was on the ark of the testimony. Between the 2 cherubim, so he spoke to him. And also, "There I will meet you, on the ark of the testimony I will speak with you." The Lord, through the oracle above the ark, spoke to Moses and the Israelites. The Lord spoke to Moses from the ark. Now, throughout the history of the Catholic Church, the new Ark of the Covenant, Our Lady, has delivered God's messages to his people through multiple apparitions of the Blessed Virgin Mary. God speaks to us through her, the new Ark of the Covenant. The next part of this video will show the incredible and absolutely wonderful way in which God has encoded the apparitions of Our Lady in Catholic history through the use of typological prefigurements in the Old Testament. Now, this is amazing for many reasons. First of all, it's fantastic and wonderful enough to have the books of the Old Testament foreshadow and prefigure people, places, and events in the books of the New Testament. However, it's another matter entirely to have the Old Testament foreshadow people, places, and events in the actual history of the Catholic Church. Second, the fact that Marian apparitions are foreshadowed in the pages of the Old Testament testify to the authenticity of the Marian apparitions. Anyone who reads the typological prefigurements honestly has to conclude that amazing and awe-inspiring similarities do exist. So much so that it is evident that God has caused this to happen. And thirdly, in understanding the Old Testament prefigurements of the Marian apparitions, we are given a more full understanding of the message of Our Lady in that apparition and its significance for the Church and the faithful. So, without further ado, here is one of the Marian apparitions prefigured in the ancient pages of the Old Testament. The Old Testament story comes from the first book of Samuel, chapters 3, 4, 5, and 6. These chapters from the first book of Samuel tell the story of Samuel as a young boy, and the events surrounding God's word against the house of the high priest Eli, the capture of the ark, and its time spent among the Philistines. Here is the actual text from the first book of Samuel, chapters 3, 4, 5, and 6. Now the child Samuel ministered to the Lord before Eli, and the word of the Lord was precious in those days. There was no manifest vision. And it came to pass one day, when Eli lay in his place, and his eyes were grown dim, that he could not see. Before the lamp of God went out, Samuel slept in the temple of the Lord, where the Ark of God was. And the Lord called Samuel, and he answered, "Here I am." And he ran to Eli and said, "Here am I, for thou didst call me." He said, "I did not call. Go back to sleep." And he went back to sleep. And the Lord called Samuel again, And Samuel arose and went to Eli and said, Here am I, for thou called me. And he answered, I did not call thee. My son, return and sleep. Now Samuel did not yet know the Lord, neither had the word of the Lord been revealed to him. And the Lord called Samuel again the third time, and he arose up and went to Eli, and said, Here am I, for thou didst call me. Then Eli understood that the Lord called the child, and he said to Samuel, Go and sleep, and if he shall call thee any more, thou shalt say, Speak, Lord, for thy servant heareth. So Samuel went and slept in his place. And the Lord came and stood, and he called the other times, Samuel, Samuel. And Samuel said, Speak, Lord, for thy servant heareth. And the Lord said to Samuel, Behold, I do a thing in Israel, and whosoever shall hear it, both his ears shall tingle. In that day I will raise up against Eli all the things I have spoken concerning his house. I will begin and I will make an end. For I have foretold unto him that I will judge his house forever, for iniquity, because he knew that his sons did wickedly, and did not chastise them. Therefore I have sworn to the house of Eli, that the iniquity of his house shall not be expiated with victims nor offerings forever. And Samuel slept until morning, and opened the doors of the house of the Lord. And Samuel feared to tell the vision to Eli. Then Eli called Samuel and said, Samuel, my son. And he answered, Here am I. And he asked him, What is the word that the Lord hath spoken to thee? I beseech thee, hide it not from me. May God do so and so to thee, and add so and so, if thou hide from me one word of all that were said to thee. So Samuel told him all the words, and did not hide them from him. And he answered, It is the Lord, let him do what is good and right. And Samuel grew, and the Lord was with him, and not one of his words fell to the ground. And all Israel from Dan to Beersheba knew that Samuel was a faithful prophet of the Lord. And the Lord again appeared in Shiloh, for the Lord revealed himself to Samuel in Shiloh, according to the word of the Lord. And the word of Samuel came to pass to all Israel. And it came to pass in those days that the Philistines gathered themselves together to fight, and Israel went out to war against the Philistines, and camped by the stone of help. And the Philistines came to Aphek, and put their army in array against Israel. And when they had joined battle, Israel turned their backs to the Philistines, and there was slain in that fight here and there in the fields about 4,000 men. And the people returned to the camp, and the ancients of Israel said, Why hath the Lord defeated us today before the Philistines? Let us fetch unto us the ark of the covenant of the Lord from Shiloh, and let it come in the midst of us, that it may save us from the hand of our enemies. So the people sent to Shiloh, that they brought from thence the ark of the covenant of the Lord of hosts, sitting upon the cherubims. And the two sons of Eli, Hophni and Phinehas, were with the ark of the covenant of God. And when the ark of the covenant of the Lord was come into the camp, all Israel shouted with great shout, and the earth rang again. And the Philistines heard the noise of the shout, and they said, What is this noise of a great shout in the camp of the Hebrews? And they understood that the ark of God was come into the camp. And the Philistines were afraid, saying, God is come into the camp. And sighing, they said, Woe to us, for there was no such great joy yesterday and the day before. Woe to us, who shall deliver us from the hand of these high gods? These are the gods that struck Egypt with all the plagues in the desert. Take courage and behave like men, ye Philistines, lest you come to be servants to the Hebrews, as they have served you. Take courage and fight. So the Philistines fought, and Israel was overthrown, and every man fled to his own dwelling. And there was an exceeding great slaughter, for there fell of Israel 30,000 footmen. And the ark of God was taken, and the two sons of Eli, Hophni and Phinehas, were slain. And there ran a man of Benjamin out of the army, and came to Shiloh the same day, with his clothes rent and his head strewed with dust. And when he was come, Eli sat upon a stool over against the wall, watching, for his heart was fearful for the ark of God. And when the man was come into the city, he told it, and all the city cried out. And Eli heard the noise of the cry, and said, What meaneth the noise of this uproar? But he made haste, and came and told Eli. Now Eli was 98 years old, and his eyes were dim, and he could not see. And he said to Eli, I am he that came from the battle, and have fled out of the field this day. And he said to him, What is there done, my son? And he that brought the news answered and said, Israel has fled before the Philistines, and there has been a great slaughter of the people. Moreover, thy 2 sons, Hophni and Phinehas, are dead, and the ark of the God is taken. And when he had named the ark of God, he fell from his stool backwards by the door, and broke his neck, and died. For he was an old man, far advanced in years, and he judged Israel 40 years. And his daughter-in-law, the wife of Phinehas, was big with child, and near her time. And hearing the news that the ark of God was taken, and her father-in-law and her husband were dead, she bowed herself and fell in labor, for her pains came upon her on a sudden. And when she was upon the point of death, they that stood about her said to her, Fear not, for thou hast borne a son. She answered them not, she gave no heed to them. And she called the child Ichabod, saying, The glory is gone from Israel, because the ark of God was taken, and for her father-in-law and her husband. And she said, The glory is departed from Israel, because the ark of God was taken. And the Philistines took the ark of God, and carried it from the stone of help to Azotus. And the Philistines took the ark of God, and brought it to the temple of Dagon, and set it by Dagon. And when the Azotians arose early the next day, behold, Dagon lay upon his face on the ground, before the ark of the Lord. And they took Dagon, and set him again in his place. And the next day, when they arose in the morning, they found Dagon laying upon his face on the earth, before the ark of God. And the head of Dagon, and both the palms of his hands, were cut off upon the threshold. And only the stump of Dagon remained in its place. For this cause neither the priests of Dagon, nor any that go into the temple, tread on the threshold of Dagon in Azotus unto this day. And the hand of the Lord was heavy upon the Azotians, and he destroyed them, and afflicted Azotus and the coasts thereof with hemorrhoids. And in the villages and fields in the midst of that country there came forth a multitude of mice, and there was the confusion of a great mortality in the city. And the men of Azotus, seeing this kind of plague, said, The ark of God of Israel shall not stay with us, for his hand is heavy upon us, and upon Dagon our God. And sending, they gathered together all the lords of the Philistines to them, and said, What shall we do with the ark of God of Israel? And the Gethrites answered, Let the ark of God of Israel be carried about. And they carried the ark of God of Israel about. And while they were carrying it about, the band of the Lord came upon every city with an exceedingly great slaughter, and he smote the men of every city, both small and great, and they had hemorrhoids in their secret parts. And the Gethrites consulted together, and made themselves seats of skins. Therefore they sent the ark of God to Acharon. And when the ark of God was come into Acharon, the Acharonites cried out, saying, They have brought the ark of God of Israel to us, to kill us and our people. Then they sent therefore and gathered together all the lords of the Philistines, and they said, Send away the ark of God of Israel, and let it return to its own place, and not kill us and our people. For there was this fear of death in every city, and the hand of God was exceedingly heavy. Then men also that did not die were afflicted with the hemorrhoids, and the cry of every city went up to heaven. Now the Ark of God was in the land of the Philistines 7 months. And the Philistines called for the priests and the diviners, saying, What shall we do with the Ark of the Lord? Tell us how we are to send it back to its place. And they said, If you send the Ark of God of Israel, send it not away empty, but rather unto him what you owe for sin, and then you shall be healed, and you shall know why his hand departeth not from you. They answered, What is it we ought to render unto him for sin? And they answered, According to the number of provinces of the Philistines, you shall make 5 golden emerods, and 5 golden mice. For the same plague hath been upon you all, and upon your lords. And you shall make the likeness of your emerods, and the likeness of the mice that have destroyed the land, and you shall give glory to the God of Israel, to see if he will take away from you his hand, and from your gods, and from your land. Now that we have the Old Testament story of the Ark of the Covenant in place, we can move to the story of the apparition of Our Lady of the Miraculous Medal. The year is 1830, and the story takes place at the convent of the Daughters of Charity of St. Vincent de Paul on Rue du Bac in Paris. On the eve of the feast day of St. Vincent de Paul, July 18th at 11:30 p.m., one of the sisters, Catherine de la Barre, was awoken in the middle of the night by a young boy's voice. The 5-year-old boy who awoke St. Catherine led her to the chapel, which was miraculously lit and ready for midnight mass. The young boy, thought by St. Catherine to be her guardian angel, said that the Blessed Virgin was waiting for her in the chapel. St. Catherine heard the sound of the Blessed Virgin's silk dress, and turned around to see the Blessed Virgin standing near the altar of the chapel. The Blessed Virgin stepped down from the altar and sat in the priest's chair, where St. Catherine knelt beside her. They talked about 2 hours, both of personal matters and of matters important to the Church and to the whole world. Here are some of the recorded words of the Blessed Virgin Mary to St. Catherine de la Barre on that night.
My child, the cross of Jesus will be hated. Many priests will be put to death. The archbishop will die. The streets will run with blood. My child, the whole world will be filled with trouble and sorrow. My child, the good God wishes to give you a mission. Later I shall let you know what it is. You will have much to suffer, but do not be afraid. The days are evil. Terrible things are going to happen in France. The king's throne will be overturned. The whole world will be filled with trouble of every kind. But come to the foot of this altar often. Here many graces will be given to everyone who asks for them. They will be given to the rich and to the poor, the great and the lowly.
Shortly after this message, the Blessed Virgin left, and St. Catherine returned to her bed. However, months later, Our Lady appeared to St. Catherine de la Barre again. Our Lady repeated that times are evil in France and in the world, and that the throne of the king would be overturned. Our Lady appeared to St. Catherine inside an oval frame above the altar in the chapel. The representation of the miraculous medal was shown to St. Catherine. Our Lady instructed St. Catherine to have medals struck after the model before her. Our Lady instructed that the medal should be worn about the neck and that great graces will be given to those who wear the medal with confidence. In the coming months and years, the miraculous medal was promulgated and spread throughout France and then the world. So many miracles and healings accompanied the medal, it was given the name the Miraculous Medal. Now, we are ready to examine the way that the message and circumstances surrounding the apparition of Our Lady of the Miraculous Medal are prefigured in the Old Testament account of the first book of Samuel, chapters 3, 4, 5, and 6. But first, I would like to offer an idea. The Old Testament contains the entire history of the Israelites. The Israelites were the Old Testament people of God. Their entire history, from their inception until their ending, is completely contained in the books of the Old Testament. Similarly, the New Testament is the entire history of the new people of God, the Catholic Church. The New Testament really contains our entire history from start to finish. However, the difference is that for the Israelites, their history is entirely recorded in the Bible. Our history is still being lived out. We are still in the New Testament, even though our history is not recorded entirely in the Bible. With that concept in mind, it becomes clear why the apparition of Our Lady of the Miraculous Medal is prefigured in the pages of the Old Testament. If the Old prefigures the New, then events in the history of the Church would be prefigured by the Old Testament. It's not just people, places, and events from the pages of the books of the New Testament, but the actual history of our Church that comprises the actual New Testament. Now, we are ready to look at the way that Our Lady of the Miraculous Medal was prefigured in the Old Testament. Both the account from the first book of Samuel and the story of Our Lady of the Miraculous Medal tells the tale of the Ark, and there are many parallels between the two. When the child Samuel was sleeping in the temple of God, near the Ark of the Covenant, from the Ark the Lord called out Samuel's name in the middle of the night. Samuel awoke and spoke with the Lord. Saint Catherine de Labouré was awoken in the middle of the night by a young boy's voice. The young boy told Saint Catherine that Our Lady was waiting for her in the chapel. The Lord told Samuel that Eli and his sons were wicked, and that Eli's house would come to an end. Our Lady said that times in France were evil, and that the throne would be overturned. Indeed, the end of the French monarchy ended definitively in 1871. The Israelites were defeated terribly in battle, and the Ark of the Covenant was stolen by the Philistines. This was a terrible blow to the Israelites. Many priests and clergy were massacred in France and throughout Europe after the apparition of Our Lady of the Miraculous Medal. The church was pressured, and the Papal States were stolen from the church in 1871. This was a terrible blow to the church. Eli was sitting in a chair when he heard about the news of his son's death, the defeat of Israel and the confiscation of the Ark of the Covenant by the Philistines. He was so shocked that he fell backwards out of his chair and died. Our Lady chose to sit in the priest chair during her apparition to St. Catherine. Our Lady wasn't tired, and in no other apparition did she sit in the priest chair. The Ark of the Covenant was taken by the Philistines and went throughout their land, causing plagues and curses to the Philistines wherever it went. The miraculous medal, or the new Ark, spread throughout France and the whole world, causing blessings and healings wherever it went. The Philistines cast metal images of the curses they received because of the ark. An image of the new ark was cast in metal and was the cause of many blessings and healings.